welcome. This is basic how-to. This video is very exciting for me. This is my first video, so bear with me. In today's video, we're going to be talking about snowblowers. So let me start with a little bit of background and just share a story with you. So a few years ago, my wife and I, we bought our first home, and at the time I was working maintenance. So anytime a snowstorm would come up, I'd be out plowing, clearing snow, out all night, good portion of the day, and that would leave the missus with getting the yard cleared so she could get to work. And that's something that was a little bit uncomfortable for her. Not so much using the snowblower, but just starting it, running it. It can be kind of confusing when you first look at it. So anyhow, I went to YouTube and I was like, I'll find a video for her. Tons of great videos. I'll weigh through what is out there and decide on something that seems good. And I couldn't find anything. I Googled how to start a snowblower, how to use a snowblower, and I was not finding anything simple. I was finding how to tear down the carburetor, how to troubleshoot a snowblower that won't start. Assuming that was something was broken, you had to fix it, clean it. Those videos are great. I mean, I've learned a lot like that. It's really great, even just to see a specific model, how to do something if you're not familiar with it. I love it, but it wasn't what we really needed. So today, that is the niche I hope to fill. Let's look at that. So today's video, we're going to be looking at differences between two-stage snowblowers and single stage. We're going to be talking about 2-cycle versus 4-cycle engines. Very basic, just what it means for the operator. What do I do with oil? Do I add oil to the gas? Do I add oil to the engine? What do I do? We're going to be looking at starting these, inspecting them quickly to look for deficiencies and if they'll work. Quick note on what to do if you find them. We're going to be looking at shutdown, storage. In the middle of the video, we're going to discuss operation and theory. Basically, quickly, you'll see a time lapse of me clearing our yard over here. And we're going to discuss maybe when you want to clear your yard, some things you might have not thought about, even if you've been clearing your yard for 20 years and you're watching this video up late, can't sleep. I don't know what the reason is, but with that all said, let's start looking at these snowblowers. So we have a few here. We have 3 single stage units, and you might ask, what do you mean single stage? Very simple. Let's flip this up so we see easier. We see a single moving component here. And that is this auger or blade, whatever you want to call it, front impeller. And this is going to spin here. That's literally all this snowblower does. The engine spins, there's a belt that when you squeeze the back handle becomes engaged, and then it spins this front paddle. And this paddle is going to break up your snow, scrape your driveway, and then throw the snow out your chute. You can control the chute side to side, the angle a little bit to get the snow where you want. So that's what these 3 are. Quickly to hit the pros and cons of these units. Well, I'd say the pro is they're generally a bit cheaper. They're simple. They can be a little bit safer, but really as long as you're not reaching into the auger, you're pretty safe. They scrape your pavement. They scrape down to the pavement quite well, which is very nice. They can handle slushy snow when it's really waterlogged quite well. Cons, they can't handle that much snow. Most of these are going to really be good for 2 to 3 inches. 6 would be maxing them out. The Toro in the middle, which is a higher end unit, probably about $500 to $800 new. That one can handle about a foot. I love that thing. Most of the year I've been using it just because it's so quick and easy, and we've had such a light winter this year up in Maine. We've only had snowstorms like this, hardly anything. That can be quicker than the big boy. So turning to this other side, we have two stages. Again, you might ask the question, 2-stage. I've heard that, I've seen it in stores. Salesmen were telling me that. What does it mean? 2-stage. It's 2 stages of snow removal. 2 components in here. We have the front augers, and we have that on both of these units. And then we have in the back, we have inner impeller, which is our 2nd stage. So front stage, nice metal augers, chews up that snow and ice. Backstage throws that out the chute. So that's your 2-stage. Let's quickly discuss pros. Front augers being metal are going to chew up that snow better, so it's going to do better usually with HUD pack, maybe over by the end of the road where the plow was. That's definitely a pro. These units are going to throw the snow further because you have that impeller throwing it. That's going to help you do a wider driveway or walkway, because you're going to be re-blowing snow, and that can get harder and harder. So if you can reach the edge with your first blow, that's ideal, or at least your second. You're going to be able to do more volume with these units. This one, I'd say if you're pushing things, you can get up to like 18 inches. I know this is only a foot, but you make a little pass in with the snowblower lifted up. You come in maybe 2-3 inches, pushing it forward. 2-3 feet, if that. And then you drop it back to the ground and you clear down to pavement. You keep doing that. This unit, it's a big opening. You can do 2 feet easy. If you're really eating into it and taking your time, you can get through 3 feet of snow with this unit. So definitely bigger. Cons. Well, cost, like we already mentioned. The 2 stages are going to cost a little bit more. With any of these units, you get what you pay for. I know these aren't the newest, but as far as brands, if you go with a cheap store brand, cheapest snowblower on the shelf, in my experience, you have nothing but headaches. That's why I chose older units, and a bunch of these fixed up to this video and also just to sell. Picked them up used. A couple of them is my own ones. I choose to keep this larger John Deere and this Toro. That's the 2 that I really love having. They both have pros and cons. Another con, metal augers aren't going to scrape the ground. You're going to have them floating over, so you're going to be left with 1/4 to 1/2 inch. You'll have a little bit more snow on the ground. Yeah, that's going to be your pros and cons. Let's look at engines. So these 3 units are 4-stroke engines. These 2 are 2 strokes. The 2 strokes, you're going to have to add oil to the gas. The 4 strokes, you dump normal gas in like you would your car. but you'll need oil in the bottom pans. You'll want to check the oil to make sure it's at a good level. And good maintenance might be to change it yearly. We can get into that on another video. So let's see, how can we tell that they're 4-strokes? Well, let's start with that. And I actually have an engine here that we can look at close up. This is a 4-stroke engine. It came off from the Toro behind you. So, I mean, the engine might just say 4-stroke on it, or if you already know from your owner's manual, great. But let's look at some clues, assuming that you're still not sure, whatever the reason might be, older. So we see oil dipstick, kind of like your car has. And again, we want to check the oil before we start. This is empty because it's a bad motor. That's one clue. The gas cap just says unleaded, or it will say nothing at all. If we look at the bottom, we see a plug here on the bottom of the engine block. And there's one on the other side. That is drain plugs. So there's oil sitting in here about yay high. And as the engine spins, that oil is splashed up and around the engine. So that's what we're dealing with here. And we'll look at this engine a little bit more close up for how do we start an engine. Moving over here, like I said, 2 of these are 2-stroke. This one is 4. Again, we can tell because it says 4-stroke. No symbols on the gas cap. These 2 over here, if we looked behind them, we would not see any dipstick or anything for the oil. And the biggest clue is the gas cap says 50-1. And a picture graph showing like a drop or something with gas. And that's telling us 50 parts of gas to 1 part oil. So that's what we have going on these 2 units. As far as mixing gas, I have some already mixed. I have another video that would be in the video description if you're interested that discusses gas in a little bit more detail. How to mix your gas, how to tell if your gas is bad, pros and cons of ethanol, well, actually just the cons of ethanol and gas and where you might be able to get ethanol free. But anyhow, check that video out if you're interested for mixing your gas. So now we discussed the differences of these units. Let's go ahead and look at a unit. I'm going to grab the camera here. So we're going to do a quick inspection of the John Deere. We're not going to do this for everyone. We will quickly look at them and some of the similarities, some of the differences. So you can see it now. We're going to check our augers. You do want to be careful not to be pinched in here, but you can just use a flat shoe and do an inspection. Right here, this isn't supposed to be spinning like that, so we know the shear pin is broken. This one, it's moving some, but that's it. It's just stopping. So the motion is good. That's telling us it's not jammed. It's nothing in there like a stick or stone. And it tells us the shear pin is good. This one, we'll have to throw a new pin in it. And we'll do another video in a moment on that. Quick inspection, okay. Augers good to go. Tires are inflated. The thing's sitting flat in the ground. Let's take a quick look at controls. So, to help simplify this, think of a snowblower as two separate pieces. We have the engine. You just saw an engine up here, and the engine is what gives us our rotating power out of the shaft. There's a pulley on this that drives the drive wheels on these bigger units, and auger on the smaller units, usually just your front auger, but sometimes both. So let's take a quick look at how we would, what we have for controls on the engine. So usually you have a key. That key will either be on the engine itself somewhere's little switch, or it would be up on the dash of the snowblower. But other than that, everything to start the motor is self-contained to the motor. We have a primer that pumps some gas into the carburetor over here. We have a throttle, and we have a choke. So that's the controls on the engine. Oh, and actually we have, on this one, we have a gas shut off. And obviously we have the recoil to start it. This engine is going to be similar. We have a key. We have a recoil. We have a lever for the throttle. That'll make the engine spin slower or faster. We have a gas shut off, and we have a choke. A lot of engines have that. So let's look at that separate. And then we have the controls. On the bigger units, you'll have a lever for your auger and a lever to engage your drive. You might have some sort of chute control to spin it one way or the other. And we'll have a control to move this flapper. The flapper was frozen, but as we move this, we have that. We have a gear shifter. You can just shift on the fly as you're going with one hand holding down. Some snowblowers can do this. If we press this down, I just pressed the wheels down, the augers are staying engaged until we lift off. Kind of a cool feature. Similar controls, all the engine controls are the same on this unit. We have a little wheel to change our chute angle. This one we need to manually adjust that angle. Gear shifter. One lever for engaging the auger. Other lever for wheels. These units exceedingly simple as far as handlebar controls. These levers all engage the front paddle, so they tighten up that belt so the engine can turn the auger. This one is very simple. It's just simply, as soon as you start the engine, that auger is paddling away. You just spin the chute on some of these by hand, and all of them you change the angle by hand. This one does have a wheel to crank your chute back and forth from the back. That is a nice feature. So that's the snowblower and kind of how you operate it. Let's look at starting one of these and see if we can kind of say or talk through it kind of simple. Get a good idea how we would do that. So we want to start it. So first off, let's check our gas. Plenty of gas in there. And it's fresh gas. Nice and clear. If it's yellow and cloudy, that means it's probably bad and you should look at getting new gas. You'll see that in the gas video. Gas does go bad after about 6 months to a year and a half. It varies, usually for sure after a year. We're checking the oil. On this style, you're just looking for the oil to be level with the top of this fill hole. It is, so that's fantastic. We have a key. This does have a 12-volt electric start. I don't have it hooked up to a battery. A lot of snowblowers will have an area you can plug into the extension, plug an extension cord into it, and then just like push a button. And what that does is the exact same thing as pulling your recoil to start it. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those to show, anything with an electric start, but it can be a lot easier to get going, especially on larger units. The next step, now that we checked out this unit, is I like putting the, let me move my hand out of the way. So, throttle, I like it about 3/4. Yeah, about 3/4. The gas, we need to make sure is on. So let's look at the sticker and see. So it's on. If it was a style like this, I mean, this is nice, it does say off, but if it doesn't have any labeling, usually when a valve like this is in line with the gas line, that means it's open. When it's going across it, it means it's closed. So if you're not sure which way is open and closed, that's something to keep in mind. Since this engine is cold, we're going to put the choke on. Putting the choke on, you'll see right here, choke says 1, start, shows a little symbol that it's like a little butterfly valve closing down. And what putting the choke on does is it restricts some of the air going into the engine. By restricting the air, you have more suction on the gas in the bottom of your carburetor bowl. And the increased suction are going to draw more gas up. So you're going to get a richer mixture, more gas to air. And when an engine's cold, that's important. Cold gas doesn't aerosolize as well as it would when the carburetor and everything is warmed up. So that's why we put the choke on to start it. We might need to play with that a little bit, and once we get it going, we will slowly back it off. So all those steps are done. All we do at this point is give it a good yank.
If you listen to the engine running here, you'll hear it running, which you can just hear that sound, that it sounds like it's getting a lot of fuel. If you look at the exhaust, you will see that it's kind of cloudy, a grayish cloud coming out. You can see there I just backed off the choke, and the engine is smoothing out. running a lot more steady, the exhaust cleared right up. You may need to do that slowly and possibly only back it halfway off. You'll notice I just throttled the engine down about halfway. I let it idle for a moment and then we turned off the key.
And all of these are going to be pretty simple, pretty similar, excuse me. Let's take a look at this unit. So, this unit, we have a primer ball, so we can pump that a couple times. That's going to get some gas in the ball, get it moving. We have an on-off switch that controls the ignition. It basically allows a spark to go to the spark plug or not. We have a recoil. We have no throttle, but we have a choke. See that same choke symbol? In this arrow, if this was scrubbed off or broken, we could see an arrow pointing this way. When you see an arrow on a level like that, it usually tells us putting it this way will engage the choke, block down some airflow, richen up the mixture. So we primed it, we turned the key, we choked it because it's cold, we pulled.
You'll notice there, I'm backing the choke off and opening it up, and the engine almost wants to stall out. That's because it was running too lean without the choke engaged when it was still cold. So now we're just letting it run for a moment and warm up. There's a quick shot of the augers engaged and what it looks like. Now you can see the engine is getting hot. It's beginning to smoke a little bit more. It's running a bit rich. So we're slowly backing off the choke and finding a good spot for it. It is still running a little bit rich now that it's warm, but fairly smooth. If we didn't back off the choke there, it probably would have stalled out. We let it idle for a moment before we turned it off, and we shut it down.
All of these are going to be very similar to the same way of starting and stopping. Okay, let's take a moment to discuss safety, everybody's favorite part. Overall, a snowblower is fairly safe if you're careful to keep your hands out of the moving components. But it is a few dangers here, and let's quickly discuss them. First off, simple thing would be hearing protection. A snowblower is loud and can damage your hearing. Say something? Huh? Say what? Yeah. Definitely loud. Nextly, gas are flammable. Almost explosive, it's so flammable. So, if you have a heat source or an open flame, it could ignite when you're filling it. So with that said, let's shut the unit off before filling the gas. We probably don't want to fill the gas while smoking or by a space heater. And even letting the unit cool down before filling it up could be good. If you have a really hot engine and you spill gas on it, it has the possibility to ignite it. So just something to keep in mind. I know personally I really don't let an engine cool down. I never fill an engine when it's running, but as soon as it's out of gas, I usually go grab my gas can, dump it in, and hopefully it never catches up with me. But just something to keep in mind. The next area is really the most dangerous area, the auger. I mean, when you're operating it, you're at the back. So for yourself, you're fine. Don't horseplay, don't run it into someone. These augers mean business. They are designed to chew and eat into things. So use caution with that. Something that is interesting. So you will have your snowblower clog up on you. The chute are going to pack solid with snow and ice at some point. And you can actually still get injured with this snowblower off. You can have enough pent up energy in the shaft and the mechanism inside where it's twisted, kind of like a string, a slingshot, a bow and arrow. So when you remove the clog that is holding that shaft, the whole unit can turn, or the whole front assembly can give a quarter turn or half turn with a surprising amount of force. Enough to snap the head of your shovel off or other things that are worth a lot more than shovels. So when clearing snow, use a stick, provided little shovel. Hot water can be great if you need to. Make sure you can see and hear clearly before you try dealing with anything like a floor mat or anything that you might have got entangled. And be aware that these augers could jump forward. So keep your hands out of there. Use a stick or something to pry things out if you need to. But just keep that in mind, and that's about it for safety. Okay, so we discussed the differences between these snowblowers. We looked at quickly inspecting the units. You might have already checked out the video on changing the shear pin. I mean, hopefully you don't need to do that in yours. Just kind of wanted to show that, because when you hit a rock or something, usually that shear pin is designed to break before you damage anything. So we already got these things going. Let's get into practice. So when do you want to snowblow? Well, if you're having a large storm such as this, and like we have out there a decent bit of snow, and you're using a smaller single stage or even the smaller two stage, you're probably going to want to hit the storm at least twice. If you're dealing with a bigger unit, this will handle the snow fine. In a minute I'm going to hop out there and you'll have a quick time lapse showing the clearing. You're going to see a little bit of time with the smaller units to kind of see the difference. How do they handle the snow versus something like this? So that's going to be kind of cool for you to see. I might do that actually in real time and try to keep it kind of quick at the end of the video so you can skip ahead. Theory behind it: start at one side, blow to the other side. Pretty straightforward. We already discussed if we need to eke through deep snow, do a little bit in, up higher, come down, clear the ground. There's one more thing to consider that I think is valuable, if I didn't lose too many viewers rambling this long. So if you have rain coming, rain is going to freeze up to the pavement if you cleared down to the pavement. So let's say the forecast is calling for let's say the forecast is calling for 8 inches of snow, and then freezing rain for 6 hours or 4 hours. After the freezing rain, the temperatures are going to drop 20 degrees. That's pretty common, at least in my area, our area up here in Maine. So what I would do is go out and snow blow when it's like 3-4 hours of snow left. When you think you're going to be able to get another 2 inches of snow or so. So you get that snow rate down and you leave 2 inches of snow on the pavement. That's going to soak up the rain when the rain starts. And it's going to take a little while to freeze up. Even when the temperatures start dropping, you should have 2 to 4 hours. So after that rain finishes, right before that wind picks up and that cold front comes in, and right as it starts, go out and blow that heavy slushy mess off. And by doing it that way, you save a glazed up driveway with a thick layer of ice. You now can just blow it all off. So that's a way to think about it. So anyhow, it's been great talking with you guys. I hope this was helpful. Please do some questions, comments. Let's skip to a bit of a head-to-head with these, seeing it out in the yard, and time lapse. Enjoy the rest. Until next time, take care. Bye.
My dance make it hurt. My dance make it hurt. Beats by Dallas, make it hurt. Beats by Dallas, make it hurt.